Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. And if you guys wanted to head over on to patreon.com, you guys can check out all the goodies on there. Just a little FYI, usually with these live streams, all the new news goes with you guys and stuff. But I'm also going to be putting my art book available for download for anybody that's a Patreon subscriber. So expect that as soon as possible, probably the weekend, maybe Monday or towards the end of this week. I just have to set up, basically type the text saying where you can download it and all that stuff. But that's a free download if you're a Patreon subscriber. And I just want to say thanks if there's anybody in the room that is a subscriber. You guys are awesome. And for everybody that's here in the chat, thumbs up. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. Sorry the pre-show didn't start until late. I was doing some personal stuff. Real life money kind of boring garbage, but had to be done. Had to be done. So, little update. What's going on? Worlds in Peril. I'm wrapping up the last page for that. And the next batch of things you guys are going to see will be pinups. That'll be for a little while. It'll probably be slow for the comic book sort of stuff, but we'll see what we can sort of do. You guys are probably into that sort of thing, and I don't want to stop the comic book stuff. So, in saying all that, the only comic book stuff I have that I can work on, it's up to you. Again, this hour's for you guys. You guys let me know what you want to see. I had done traditional pencils. That's like a workflow I'm trying right now with blue, red, and like green colored pencils. You guys may have seen that stuff. I can show it to you again if you're interested. Just let me know in the chat. So I'm doing that and then scanning it in and then inking in Manga Studio. Now, what I'm going to be doing is inking actually in Manga Studio 4, just because I like some of the tools. It's easier. It trims the fat. I don't have to do anything. The file sizes are small. Just a preference. Manga Studio 5 is excellent. There's no reason not to use it. But so that's what I'm doing. So the only thing I have really to work with for you guys is that I can work on that page. Right now, it's literally just pencils scanned in. There's no inks yet. That's supposed to be what I'm doing tomorrow. But if you guys want me to do that for the hour, that's cool. Or if you guys had anything else you wanted to throw at me, by all means, go ahead. And I'll leave it kind of open and put it in your guys' hands what we're going to do for this next hour. Let me just go through the chat here. So an art book. It's a book that I released, I think, oh man, it's probably about like 2 to 4 years old now. It's a lot of older work. It's a black and white book. It's about 250, 300 pages, maybe around there. It's pretty beefy. But yeah, like I said, you can actually buy it right now if you wanted a printed copy. Just head on over to my website. I believe there's a link there. If not, head on over to indieplanet.com, especially if you're in the US. If you're outside of the US, I'd say forget about it. The shipping's actually pretty brutal. It's print on demand. Or you could just type in The Art of Jonathan Rector Volume 1. It should link you to that too. But if you guys are just interested in the digital thing, I'm going to be uploading that, like I said earlier, soon. You guys can check that out too. Worlds in Peril is not done. I have one page of inks left, like I say, and I'll be starting that tomorrow or tonight if we're doing it. And I've got an awesome colorist. He's on there wrapping it up, and a fantastic letterer as well. But the rest of the stuff that you guys will see will be, imagine if you don't know what it is, think of the Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook. That's what I'm doing for superheroes. So there's a lot of pinups, so you might just have like a character standing. And there's about 50 to, I don't know, like almost 100 of those that we have to do. Unsung is interested in seeing that traditional pencil Manga Studio 4 ink workflow. A lot of people are into the comic stuff. Okay, so let me close this guy. See you later. Boom, 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 boom. And we'll open up good old Manga Studio 4. Now, the reason I'm doing Manga Studio 4, may as well, we'll talk about it if we're in here, is, like I say, it's a program that trims the fat, if you ask me. You can only really draw in bitmap. So all the lines are just straight black and white. There's no gray, and it makes the file sizes so tiny, guys. It's awesome. The ruler, is awesome. Not like what we're seeing. I actually remember, if you guys remember from last stream, I was getting really upset with the ruler. I just couldn't rotate certain things. I watched a few videos and I fixed it. I figured out what it was. However, it still wasn't awesome. Not like good old Manga Studio 4. I don't know what they did, why they screwed it up, or why they changed it. You can do everything in Manga Studio 5 that you can do in 4, I believe. But it's just, I don't know, simpler. For me, it's just easy to save. I don't know if you guys are running Manga Studio 4 and 5, if you've seen the difference, but the saving is just like instant for me. But Manga Studio 5, it takes a while. You know, I do have an older computer, so that's most likely why. Okay, so I've got a pencil folder and an inks. Okay, let's just open the inks. Show the pencils in there. Like, look how fast that loaded. Bang, just done. Okay, so let me see if I have. I don't. Let me open the thumbnails so you guys can. I just want to step through what it is that I did here for you guys. Cogs is saying critiques. If you guys want, you know, what the hell? We'll just get spicy. Like I say, there's no. I've got no. We'll draw with this, and until then, if you had something that you guys wanted critiqued, please add it in the chat in capitals saying critique this or something with a link. And I'll just try to butcher it as much as I can, even if it's an awesome drawing. Maybe I can find something. Thumbnails. And I run. Oh, let me turn that off so you guys don't hear that crap. Okay, so thumbnails. Page 12. Okay, so how this workflow works is it's very DC Comics Guide to digitally drawing comics workflow. If you were to print this out with blue lines, and I don't have a colored printer or a cool 11 by 17 printer, I just have a generic, what is it? What the hell are these things called? Toner printer. It's very awesome for black and white work. I got it to print mini comics, to be absolutely honest with you. But how this works is I just get these here. These are thumbnails that I did digitally for the project, and just printed them or brought it a file into Photoshop, blew it up to 11 by 17, and then you guys can check my YouTube stuff. I show you how to do this, like cut it out or print it out, cut it in half, get some tape it together. But this is it. This is the thumbnails here. They're pretty loose. I didn't need to go over them because everything I need's pretty much there. I actually changed some of the panels or whatever. But printed them out, and then I just grabbed, like you can see here, blue and white, or blue and red pencils just to help build up form. And then grabbed, I think it was just an H lead, and quickly picked the lines that I liked. But you can see like there's panels like this that are pretty open. There's a lot of perspective work. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time penciling backgrounds because that's one of the beautiful things about digital is backgrounds. But stuff like this, close-ups of like characters' faces. What I wanted to really do with this is like this rendering isn't final, but I just want to have the idea of where the rendering is, and I like doing the traditional way because the other benefit that or the one thing that I do miss from doing traditional pencils, let's just say, or traditional work on 11 by 17 board is the size of your pencil strokes. You know exactly how it's going to look. You know what I mean? Like when it's shrunk down, when it's printed on an actual like comic book, it is smaller than an 11 by 17 that you originally penciled or inked at. But when you work digital, I was having a big problem with that too. It was just a lot of zooming in, and you started losing the concept of how much rendering was over rendering and stuff. So that's another reason I bring it in here. It speeds things up, and this sort of stuff is pretty quick for me anyway. But then yeah, we got like the character here. It might be a little confusing to see. Just eating some pizza. You got a little buddy in the background. This is gonna be a fun panel to draw. This guy's got a bunch of mechanical plants around him, and this one I changed the panel up. It's gonna be two characters riding in a fire truck, and then she goes running in and opens the door, and there's like the evil character in the background. Yeah, go ahead, post the Shredder picture. Let's take a look at it. Yeah. Yeah, anybody that's got anything that wants critique, by all means, just throw it in there with a link saying critique this or something, please. That way I can see it. No, this isn't the mini comic. This is this is still Worlds in Peril. This is the last page here. So this guy up in the top right looks like he'd be pretty fun to draw. I'm actually looking forward to doing this guy. So anyway, I have this all on a layer. I've already got my panels good to go. So the next thing I'll do is I'd like to make a little folder. Just color inks. Make a new layer. Black and white. Yes. And I believe, yeah, Maru brush, is that right? Yep, there you go. And that's it. And I'll just lower the opacity. And Bob's our uncle. We're good to go. And we got to stop. Somebody's got to critique. So let me just save it up here. It's funny. There you go. Manga Studio 4, when you first start it up, it's like the first save you do takes a little bit, and then after that it's like just press the save button and it saves. Okay, so let's get this critique underway here. File new. Looks good. Okay, so before, I'm going to make you wait a little bit there, Noah. We're going to take a look at the shredder that we looked at last week, which was awesome. I really didn't have any complaints at all. Just something I would change if you were interested in changing it. So copy image, and we'll bring it in here. I have a copy of the version you had last week, only edited versions. Okay, yeah, no problem. All right. So it looks like, I think this one was last week's, the unedited one, and this is the edited one, I believe. Right? Or what am I looking at? Did you just change the legs? No, you added the cape too. See, I apologize. We don't have the last one, right? So I can't really check it out. No, this does look different because I remember the size were like that. Size were a little different. Okay, so, oh yeah, and then you added the bandanas everywhere. Okay. All right. Well. Oh, and then you're trying to change his legs over here. Okay. I like this one better. I don't think you need to get crazy with the legs over there. It just makes him look weird. Like, people don't stand like this. This would be fine if you still had the shell in there so he could put his foot on the shell. But since you're getting rid of it, it looks weird to have it out like that. I don't even know if you need the shell. I know why the shell's there, like we said last week. But, again, try to think of this guy. Like, you've already got these shapes, but really start, like, it should be going back like this, so there's a lot of, basically it's a redraw, to be honest with you, if you want the perspective to be right. But if you don't want to redraw it, let's see what we can fix up with what we have. So if you have this, maybe, you know what I think it is? It's just the face. The face, if you had to redraw anything, it's the face. Because you have the face, like he's looking up, looking intimidated. But the angle we have here, right, this is the shape that the head's at. And then all of a sudden the body just goes straight like this. But it's not wrong, it just looks weird, right? Like, because I know we want Shredder to be intimidating here. Let me just lower my brush size. So if what we did was just delete all this. Made him looking at us, you would still get that intimidating, Shredder. Just, give him the exact pose that everybody gives him. He's looking down at people. I would probably go about this route. So this is the only thing you'd have to redraw instead of the whole. I don't know if you want to do the cheesy Terminator one eye thing coming through. Like, I think right away that just makes it look a little bit more in your face, right? He's looking at us. He's not off in the distance, and he still looks, badass. Other than that, the only thing I would change besides the face is I don't know if you're comfortable with shadows just yet, but with shadows, that's what makes characters like this, like villains, pop. Very rarely, and this is again obviously just my opinion. You got the, especially when you got the moon back there, man. You should really be getting this going. And again, I don't know how far along you are in this, so I don't want to just keep pushing you. But villains rarely look good in just bright light, in my opinion. Especially when you got something kick-ass like a giant moon behind him. You can really start just playing with those heavy shadows. Getting some real sweet cast shadows too, right? Like this whole staff. Just that, because what it does is it gives you like this really cool focus line of where to look. And just to swing it around, you kind of want this action it's looking like. You want this coming back up into the sword, so we need to get something that brings you up like this. So right away, you can just do the cape kind of like that. So if you figure your compositions like this, so you kind of already got your cape kind of coming up like this, so that's good. We just need a line coming through, right? So you could bring his cape back up like this. It just gives a flow to the image, you know what I'm saying? And, oh, you do want to do heavy shadowing? Okay, tits, man. Because, like, that's the stuff. If you start doing the shading, don't think of the shading like it's making your work easier, because it's not. You still got to have proper structure underneath it. But because he's a villain, you get some nasty cast shadows going on, too. And defined cast shadows, like, okay, so people might not know what a cast shadow is. So let's just say, for example, right here, this shoulder pad, okay? But the light is coming this way. So the shadow would be like, all right, underneath these little like spiky things that Shredder's got on his shoulder blade. But a cast shadow is when that object casts a shadow, right? So these things would be coming down, curving over, you know, like it adds that depth to it. If you can, in your head, think of things that you could add to make like the cast shadows really pop. If you're going to still go with this with the shell, you know, you can still have that sword kind of coming over. All down here would be real sweet, man. All the black with like those blades. Like this whole side, you could probably just... where's my tools? Get that bandana going. So I'm doing here is just using the lasso tool just to fill it black. You see right away like what's happening? Oops. Alright, so apparently we got blood splatter here. I don't know. You can bring your white back in and really just start dressing this up. Anyway, I'm not going to stay too much time here. Yeah, heavy shadow is intimidating and very hard. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Just keep studying form. Keep going with the image. I think it's awesome. I just want to make sure I'm going through here. I just want to check the one. I don't want to lose this critique here for Noah. Let me just copy that. And okay, let me just catch up with the chat here. Hey, Will. Noah saying I'm still young and developing, so the image I post is not great, if that makes sense. No, that's awesome. Even if nobody's great, let's just be blunt and honest here, right? I'm not great. Nobody's great. There's people that have more skill because they've studied for a while, you know, and longer. But it depends. I could look at certain artists and go, "Man, that guy is awesome," and somebody else could look at him and be like, "Have you seen the anatomy? That anatomy is horrible. That guy sucks." It happens, right? So don't be. Oh yeah, Thanos. Fuck yeah, love Thanos. Thanos is one of my favorite villains. But don't be intimidated if your stuff, like you're saying. You'd be surprised. Watch. Well, I'm gonna post your picture here, and you're probably gonna get people that are like, "Oh, that's awesome," or you're gonna get both sides. You're gonna get people saying like, "Oh, that's shit," and then you're gonna get people saying, "Oh, it's awesome." So I can tell it's digital right away, which isn't bad at all. I think it's funny because the more you work digital, the harder it is to like not see it, and then you're also trying to like not make it look as digital. You know what I mean? You're only 11, and this is what you did. Keep doing what you're doing because you're doing really well. You're doing really well. If you're 11 and this is what you're cranking out, I'm not going to critique if you're copying things or if you're ripping this from PhotoRef or anything. That's okay. So let's just nail it down as if we were doing this before. So right away, let's just point out the errors that we see. Okay, so anatomy, lighting, balance is off, proportions. So as you can see, I can keep going. Basically, what I'm telling you is everything is wrong. It looks good, but everything is wrong. And let's just step through it so we can get you up to speed. And, I mean, hopefully what I'm saying doesn't sound too much like a jackass. Okay. So, what I like to do with you guys is just draw over what you did. And right away, it makes it very easy to see errors. Okay? So we got our eyes. It's a really cool face, by the way. All right, so let's just figure out what you did here. All right, so we got some pec action, which is going into your ribs. You got some shoulder action. Let's just get this cool arm in the foreground here. So that hand needs work, but that's not. We don't need to get to that just yet. All right, so you got that. See, then the shoulder. So I'm just going to point this out right away because you guys will see it. It's fun. Is that you see how his shoulder's popping up here, and then all of a sudden the shoulder dips back and it goes down here. So I'm going to go like this. Might be if I was you and I was drawing this, you might think that's his tricep. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's his shoulder up here. His bicep and stuff. And then his hand. You brought his lats in like way over here. It's funny. I love seeing how people do anatomy because everybody's anatomy is a little different, right? But when people start doing what you're doing here, and I did it too for a long time because I like the way it looks. It looks stupid to a lot of people, but I think it's funny. You know when like bodybuilders are ripped, right? And they're just like shredded and they got sweet abs and stuff. But then they're like in the off season or whatever the hell they call it, where they're in the bulking phase where all they're doing is just trying to gain as much mass as possible. And they get this bloated abs look. It's hilarious. I love it. Because it doesn't look natural, right? Like if you see big, heavy dudes, you usually don't see abs on them. And when you see bodybuilders with giant bloated abs, oh, I love it. Alright, so this is actually pretty interesting because I'm seeing, when you do these draw overs, a lot of stuff pops it out. But like it's weird because it looks like there was some study going on here with certain anatomy, and then certain anatomy was off. Okay, so here we go, the big moment of truth. You just bring them over, and it's funny because when you start doing stuff like this, the underdrawing doesn't look that bad. Like it looks pretty sound, you know. But there's certain things you did with the lighting and the rendering that make it feel really weird and off. Okay, so when you look at it like this doesn't actually look that bad. But when you look at it like this, when you first look at your drawing, it's sound. There's a lot of things here, and then down here gets really out of whack. But when you look at this right away, you're like, yeah, keep going, keep going. That could be anybody. That could be the Hulk sitting down on a throne and stuff, right? But your lighting and your rendering was really, really messed up here. So let's see if we can fix it. Let's just change it to blue. And we'll make a new layer and just sort of draw over top of it. All right, so first things first. You see how you got all this extra weight here? That's a big red flag, and his hips are a big red flag. Okay, because to me he's supposed to be sitting down, right? So if he's sitting down like this, here. Let's just draw over it like we would. Let's just build his rib cage. I want him leaning too. Like if he's just sitting like he's erect, like he's just like if you imagine yourself sitting right now with your shoulder blades back to pop that chest out, you can only do so much with your arms without it looking kind of weird. But if you have him kind of like, what's he leaning on? Like, is he leaning on this arm? We'll make him leaning on that. Nah, he's got to lean on this. That's the power arm. Nah, we'll go the other way. All right, so we got that. I'm just going to follow the contour of the chest that we already got established here. And now I apologize because I am going to add a little bit of Thanos stuff that I like. I like the bulky anatomy that you got there. It's really good. So we've got the chest here, right? So we've got this tilt going up like this. Let me just draw to the side so you can see what I'm thinking of ended up doing with this picture, okay? So this will be his torso and his chest and his pecs and his hips. They got to come out at us like this, okay? So if we were to draw it like a box, think of it like this, okay? And he's going to have that little underwear shape in here, but there's like these little cylinders that have to pop out to be his legs. Okay? And that's sort of where you failed. And this is where the foreshortening problem that a lot of people come at, is that it's like his knee is here where it should be, and then you're throwing in the muscles because they're supposed to be there. Whereas what you should have done is watch. Let's just ground him here. So I'll still do that underwear shape, because I know it's what a lot of people like to do because it's pretty easy to remember stuff. But I'm just putting circles until I can start to see with my mind here, right? So that's where a knee would be, and that's where one of his thighs are. And we're going to use perspective to figure out where everything's supposed to be here. So that means his knee's over here. So this knee's still coming at us, this thigh, right? It's still coming at us like this. We're going to flare that leg out because this is just another thing. I know I'm probably jumping over the map for you, so I apologize on this. The rendering is the rendering did look familiar, but thanks, man. Hey, if anybody's looking at my stuff to like learn to draw, that's humbling as well as scary because I feel like I still got tons of learning to do. But yeah, keep posting stuff like this, guys. This is awesome. This is how you get better. Whether it's me looking at it and giving you bullshit information, or just keep spreading it online, getting other people to give you feedback. And never go through life, this is just big brother kind of talk here, never go through life wanting to just get everybody to tell you your art's awesome all the time. You'll never grow that way, and it's going to be a horrible way to stagnate, and you don't want to be that guy. You always want to be, when you hear people saying you're your own worst enemy or you're your own worst critic, that's good. And just hear me out. That's good because you're the one that's always judging your art against your idols, against the people you look up to, because there's something in what those idols and the people you're looking up to, there's something that they're doing that you want to know how to do. And the only way you're going to know how to do that is if you're still hungry, if you're still, even if you want to be the best, whatever that means, if you still want to be the best comic book artist or the best illustrator, there's people out there that are that you see out there that are the best. And you might overtake them one day, but one day there's going to be somebody else that you want. And in order to keep doing that, to keep staying hungry, you have to keep learning. So if all you do is surround yourself with positive feedback, that's not the same as a positive environment. If you're surrounded by a positive environment of just artists and people that are all drawing and they're all pushing each other to get better, that's great. But you don't want to surround yourself by like yes men and yes girls, moms and dads that'll just put your art on the fridge. That's not. There comes a point where you got to move from that, right? And what you're looking to do is you want you want people to say that what you're doing is good, obviously, right? But you want people you look up to look through it and say, you know, something is off and this is what you need to do to fix it. It's just my opinion or just this person's opinion, but take it with a grain of salt, see what they're saying, and just think about it the next time you draw it. And usually you'll notice an improvement that way if you keep doing that, okay? Okay, so let's just jump back here so we can see. Let me just zoom out so you guys can see here. So what I was trying to say is, yeah, we could bring his legs in like this. That's a interesting way to sit. What I'm seeing is there's a lot of pinch going on. I don't know. I like to just flare these legs out. This foot would probably be, you know, even though you don't see this, grab like a second piece of paper or something, and just so you can see it for yourself. So I'm just feeling this stuff out. Who knows if we'll change it. I just need him to be grounded for this point, okay? So let's put this straight line coming in. We're going to change a lot of that up anyway. All right, so the same thing's going to happen that we did with the knees with the arms here, okay? So the arm has to come down. It has to hit something. It's probably hitting the arms on the, what's it called here? The armrest of the throne. So that's where the chunk of the arm is going to break here. You're still following that same shape, but things getting closer to it, so it's got to get bigger, right? So that's where the wrist is, and we're going to put like a giant hand, you know, here. I like Thanos with massive hands myself, but we want, that's where he's leaning to, right? So we want a lot of pinch points. You might hear a lot of people talk about like squash, squish, and squash. Is that it? Squish? Stretch and squish or stretch and squash, something like that. Essentially, they're thinking about this. So if you're like a jelly bean, that looks fine. But as soon as you like squash a jelly bean here and stretch the other side, it looks better. So if whatever you do on one side, make it the opposite. So if I want all of his weight crunching down, crunch, crunch, like a lot going on here, this side I want like almost like that. You know, I want that just popping up. So that means I'm not gonna put his arm right here on there because there's one side that's already leaning down. I want him to show you his gauntlet here, right? Like this is Thanos. He's showing you why he's Thanos, you know. I know a lot of people that like to put the fist there. Do what you want. I'm just trying to figure this out here. So we got that. We're going to put the elbow here. We got to bring this down just so we've still got room for his shoulder. And brings that out. Now I'm getting into some complicated stuff here. I'm flexing anatomy and stuff. Let's get that in there. I just want to bring his abs in a bit. That way they can makes them look a little bit more dynamic too when you start breaking them up. We can still use the head you had. Right. So if we, let me just turn off what you had underneath. Actually, this is what we'll do. We'll turn the red off. Yep. And we can just move this over, just so you can see what I'm trying to talk to you about. And again, this is just, you know, my opinion on what's going on. So this is like sort of the pose I would go with. It makes him feel like he's got a little bit more, you know, power to it, hopefully. And I guess the last thing here, I'm not going to show you how to do the anatomy because like this is stuff. I know you're only 11 or whatever. Just keep reading books. Check out. I think Will posted the title there. Michael Hampton. What's the name of the book? Damn it. Figure Drawing, Design, and Invention. If you need me to repeat that, you just post it. Let me know. And we can go in there. The last thing I'll just touch up on your thing here real quick is your rendering. Okay. Let's turn that back up. All right, so let me just make sure I got it. Okay. So we need to figure out where the light source is. The way that you got it rendered, it looks like the light source is coming from here. So let's see what we can do here. So probably underneath that meat that he's got on his face, it has some shadow on it. Cast shadow over on this side. Let's probably just black out this whole side. The type of lighting I like to do is rarely do I just do like minimal lighting. I try to just black out as much as I can. It just makes it feel, especially with villains, like we just talked about this with Shredder, it just makes them feel a little bit more menacing when there's a shadow there. And what it does is it makes a lot of your what's it called? Emotions of the character pop too. And it makes a lot of the decision making pretty easy too once you figure this sort of stuff out. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to throw again that cast shadow that we talked about. We're going to make Thanos' head casting down onto his shoulders. Do you see right away like how that makes it feel a little bit more intimidating a bit? All underneath of his armor plate, we should probably put some shadow too, because it's sitting above his anatomy. That fist needs some work, but so the rendering, what's happening here? I know you said you're doing in some Photoshop. I draw in Photoshop as well. You have to be a little bit more loose, or not loose. I apologize. You can be loose in Manga Studio, I find, but you need to be a little bit more conscious of the inks when you're doing Photoshop. So the way I render is, so here's a line of rendering like this, you know, or you can kind of build it up and go light. So the way I get this effect digitally is I like to think of the thinness part and then go to the heaviest part. So when I'm going very light, the line will look like that. When I'm just crushing it, it'll look like that. The same thing works in Photoshop, except there's a little bit more like jitter in the line. Just start light and go heavy into the shadow, okay? What you're doing here is just these lines, and it doesn't work. This sort of rendering rarely works when you're using bold blacks and shadows like this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to white out all the rendering you have on his abs and fun stuff. And we're just going to re-render it. And hopefully you'll be able to see what I mean. Just a little pro tip here. In all these small areas, it's hard to throw rendering in there because it makes the lines tend to look a little wonky. Let's throw all that in shadow. We don't need to see all that stuff. Okay, so the rendering you were doing too, it was like this. Now why that doesn't work is because it's not following the form of what you're trying to do here. These are abs, you know, they're kind of rolling in like this, or they're following the perspective like that. So as long as you remember those shapes of what it is you're rendering, the rendering usually is pretty easy. So you're just trying to find or build up volume to like the direction of the light. It's a little hard to see here because it's a low res image. So if you zoom out, like you see there's texture going on there, and I don't really like that. They look a little too fake. When you start doing this sort of rendering, it's like you have to do it everywhere or else it starts to look really weird. Like weird like how it looks right now, how I'm doing it. So let's just use like another area for example. Let's use these where you have it flat, okay? So you've already seen this shape that you got right here, and this shape right here, and this shape right here. That's great. You've already done it with your shadows, which is actually smart. This shape is beautiful. And all you need to do is just render it. Let me just flip it so I can, that's fine. They're so small, and then we're going to start getting bigger the closer we get to like where the light won't hit. I'm just going to bring it on the other side. You can do it on the other side here too. But remember, this whole thing's like curved like that, right? So you can kind of see what's going on. Like this rendering needs a lot of work. I'll just be honest with you. This low resolution stuff, it makes it difficult to see Like your line quality is shit. Just because it's a small image that you upload, it's not your fault. But hopefully this works. If you were to do a quick fix to fix him up, um, honestly, I don't like doing this, but because the hips and the legs are so bad, you could just block them out. And you see how weird that looks all of a sudden? That's like it's an interesting way to figure out what's working and what's not working. So if there's one thing to fix this whole thing is like try to put something like these on there, like fix the legs, and your abs won't look like that either. Right, like he's sitting. So those abs kind of have to come in. You can do the Jim Lee thing where it's like your, what's it called? Rib cage caves in a bit. You sink these back and then you just start pouting them this way. He's got really sassy hips here too. But anyway, the reason why is just go back to this. Go back to this as well. It's if you need to draw this on the side, go ahead and do that. Just keep remembering this stuff. This is the beautiful stuff. If you can nail just this stuff here, guys, you can put any dressing on there you want, right? Like you can put any rendering, any lighting you want, no problem. So, no, it's not your fault, Noah. Don't worry about it. That's the way the internet works. How much time we got here left? Okay, so we got 15 minutes left. I'm just gonna scroll up there. I just want to make sure if anybody else had any critiques that they wanted, feel free to throw them in here. And I'm just going to catch up on questions in case anybody had any. Ah, crap. Okay. No, you render from thick to thin. That's cool too. I find that's like a more traditional way. Although, just again, take everything I said with a grain of salt. Do what's working for you. Don't necessarily force yourself into trying new methods of working unless you're feeling confident in doing so. But just because it's a certain way I do it doesn't mean you got to do it. Please don't ever think like. Don't think that anyway. So Lazy Frog has one. So let me just copy that and Nod's asking, I wonder what is a good website to get freelance work? I'm just trying to start looking around and feel free to type some there's actually a few. Digital Webbing is a pretty good forum. I haven't been there in a while. And I believe Pencil Jack. Those are two forums that I used to go to back in the day, and I got a lot of work from them. There's a new website that I found. It's called freelanced.com. Just like as if you're a freelance artist, freelanced with a D at the end.com. There's a free membership, and then there's also a paid one. I've gotten one request from a job through there. I don't know if I'll do it yet, but the pay is excellent. Not saying that, because I've been drawing, I deserve to pay, or if you guys do it, you guys won't get awesome pay too. But I would definitely look into that website as well. It's got a lot of potential. Da, 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 Lars asked Jonathan, do you have a pro tip for drawing joints? Example, certain angles to show connecting shoulder to the chest. Noah's more used to traditional art. Keep doing it then, man. Keep doing what makes you feel good. Don't feel like you have to go into digital because everybody's doing it or something. Just keep drawing for what works for you. Don't start changing how you work or why you work just because it's something else. In comics especially, a massive amount. I would say, I don't know the actual numbers, but working for the big companies, I would say it's at least more than half. Maybe even 75% of people are traditional. Maybe 80%. Video games, I've seen people that still work with pen and ink and pencil and paints. It is faster digital, but you don't need to worry about that. Anyway, okay, so joints. Shoulder to chest. So, and then I'll get to that critique real quick. So when you're worrying about joints, okay, why is this not working? There we go. So joints here. All right, so if we've got our chest, I'm just going to do this simple shape here. That way it's easy for everybody. So this is the front, right? Just put little balls there if you want to get real basic with it. And just start drawing your arms from there. But like that's all a joint is. It's just that. Don't start going into like massive shapes to figure out your joints because it makes it very tough. The next step from here, let's just do a 3/4 one so you can kind of see it at an angle. So at the end of the collarbone, put the little ball there. There's another ball where your arm should start. Let's just do it again. From this is where you would start worrying about like, okay, well, like where's my perspective going? Like what's the angle a lot of this stuff is doing? Okay. Let's do another one from the straight again so you can see. So collarbone, a little ball there, and then put another ball for the arms. Right, and then you'd figure out your perspective. And once you kind of have these tubes, this is what you're looking at, okay, for an arm. If we were to say this was like an arm straight at us here, I believe it's about halfway. Just draw another line. That's where your shoulder fits in, right there, okay? And I believe it's another halfway here. That's where like that forearm muscle pops out like that. And then you can worry about all that stuff there. So knowing that halfway is where your shoulder goes, when you have like these tubes, just find the halfway point. This might take a little bit of preference just so you can kind of figure out how things are going. And then just connect them like that. See what's going on there? So let's do like a Hulk smash. Got the massive rib cage. Extreme foreshortening. You can't even see the what's it called? The collarbone, but you know collarbones end about here. So we're gonna put another little balls there for the arms, and he's coming back and boom, he's getting ready to smash stuff, right? So let's get the perspective in there again. You know he's got massive tubes here for arms, because it's the Hulk or Thanos. And find the halfway point. And that's where you start connecting your shoulders. Like it takes practice with this stuff because like this right here, this line looks really weird to have it all the way up there, right? But that's where his like triceps would be and his fists would be all the way back there. You probably put his head in here. You know, this sort of thing. So hopefully this is looking easier. So let's just do one more pose. We'll do a sideways. Alright, and we'll have collarbone, arms going here, elbow, wrist, hand. Find the perspective. This is pretty flat, but we can still find like an angle in there, so we're going to keep everything kind of going this way. Alright, so halfway, shoulder. Okay? So try that stuff. Try it out. See if that will help you out. Okay. You only I'm actually working on a video, so you guys might be interested in this as well. I'm gonna grab that picture here and bring it in. I'm starting this up on Monday, okay? And what it is I want to jump back into my own, like, I just want to start studying again, anatomy and drawing and my favorite stuff and all that. But I've actually had people ask about this before because I have brought it up because I used to do this in the past, which is homeschooling. Like, how do you teach yourself stuff? So I'm just gonna do a video series about like how I'm setting up my week of what I'm putting into it and what you guys can do. It's actually very simple. Okay, it's nothing elaborate. There's no like secret tech to any of it. It's not, you know, insider knowledge sort of thing. But I think it's definitely something that some people might be interested in case you are interested in, you know, you want to make a schedule for yourself. So what to put in there, sort of thing. Okay. So this is Lazy Frogs, I believe. Okay. So I don't know if this was a scan or was this digital? It doesn't look digital. Very well could have been. I'm not sure. So anyway, so right off the crack, if this was a scan, like I'm wondering if there's like a skew thing going on. Sometimes this happens, but let's just fix the anatomy. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the idea of a beefy Spider-Man. You know, like look at the size of his lats and the head and stuff. All great stuff. But if we're just going under the assumption that this is Spider-Man, there's some stuff here that's got to change here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and just draw right over top of it using the same angle you had, just to fix up the anatomy of what's going on here. Okay, so we want him kind of tilting down like he's looking forward at us. Don't worry about the jaw just yet. We want his neck kind of coming this way. You have his chest coming that way. And there's a cool shoulder over there. Some neck muscles. Alright, I'm just going to worry about the jaw now. Get that actually in there. I'll put the ear in like you had, just to show you how I do it a little differently, okay? Alright, so let's just move it over to the side just so you can see the difference here. Okay, so all I did was I used the exact same like angle you had. I just tried to slim it up a bit, even though he does look a little beefy for Spider-Man. Okay, and just trying to figure out certain things here. So I have the guides down. I don't know if you did this stage here. Okay, could you let me know, Lazy? It was done on an iPad. Okay, so on an iPad, I don't know if you can work in layers like I'm about to, or if you were to work on a regular piece of paper, you would have your pencil and an eraser, right? So when you're doing that sort of thing, is do exactly what I'm going to do here. So we'll just assume that was a pencil. And I would have my guides there now, right? I'm like, okay, I got everything that I need, but I just want to take a little further. I just want to start carving things out. I'm just going to work like this as if it was a pencil here, okay? So I still need to figure things out. I like to, even though it's Spider-Man, I like to still figure out where his anatomy is on his head, because it makes connecting the neck and all those other things easier. So we still got that neck coming in, so I want that you know, Adam's apple probably just falling into here, and his neck muscle kind of coming in here. Now his back is looking a little beefy, so I'm just going to slim it up. But I don't want to lose the cool, what is that, trap muscle or whatever the hell back there that we had, right? You could put a collarbone in here. I mean, it probably should be. I don't really like drawing collarbones. His chest is actually looking kind of small, but whatever. I'm just gesturing in at this point now, like where rough anatomy would be. Yeah, but only 3 layers. Okay, perfect. If you got 3 layers, then you're fine. Your first layer would have been is still this here. Don't be shy to just keep making new layers and erasing them as you go. Okay. Let's figure out where the nose would be too. Because the nose lets me just do these little things. This is just how I do Spider-Man. Spider-Man comes in so many different flavors that it's disgusting. You can do anything you want with them. So I have this. Now, in The iPad, I'm assuming if you make a new layer, you can change the opacity of a layer underneath. I hope. If not, I don't know. Maybe just jump back to paper because this is what we do here. Okay, so now we grab our kneadable eraser or your opacity, whatever you do, and you're just gonna lightly erase, or just turn it down to like 15-20%, so you can still see it underneath, but it's it's enough that you can just pick the lines. And what we're doing here is you can still be sketchy, but you can start to pick the lines that you want here. Okay, so you can still see I'm being pretty sketchy with it. Put the ear in there because I just want to show you something that I'm going to do with the ear that looks like you tried to do, but I don't think it really worked that well. Okay, so we got some sort of sharp shapes here, and I'm going to start to oops, try to really slim up Spider-Man here. The shoulder's looking basically the same part. I didn't even need to erase that, to be honest with you. Slim them up some more. Okay. So now I'm gonna get the little alien eyes on Spidey. Just sort of like outline the shape there. Some people put a little dip in the nose. I don't know. It's your call. From here, I'm just gonna start doing some of his costume. Just real lightly so I know where it's at. So I like to do this straight line there, and then we can start breaking it up. I'm not going to do the rest of them here. I just want to do his head just to show you here. Okay, so then the next thing you do is make another layer or whatever, or like what I'm going to do is just grab the kneadable eraser and erase it some more. Alright, so let's get some lines going here. Alright. Okay, so I mean that's how I would end up doing it. Okay, so the last thing I'll just say real quick is the lighting that you have for the ear. Okay, so the way you have the lighting for the rest of it, it looks like the light source is coming up from here. So if the light's coming up from here, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go to the inside part of the ear, and it's gonna cast a shadow this way. It's sort of been like what we've been talking about this whole show is cast shadows. But you still want that rim of the ear. And I know it looks a little odd, but that's because we don't really have any shading on the rest of them. And Spidey can be a real pain in the ass to shade because he's got so many lines, and like you start adding too much shadow in certain areas and he really starts to not look like Spidey anymore. I'm just going to put the nose in there just for now. Right, once you start getting your shading on everything, then you're pretty much good to go. Alright, that could be forever to do all that stuff. So, I mean, hopefully that helped you. I know that it was all over the place based on what you did there. His anatomy looks a little off. If anything, just practice your form and your structure. And I recommend everybody doing this, including myself, is just filling up pages and pages of just this. Think of this pose in your head, you know what I mean? And just do this. All right, so if you want to start with the head, that's cool. You know, I'm looking down like he's, badass. And just try to figure out what's the angle that he's doing here. And you're just trying to figure out, like, okay, so there's a center line. I'm just working with tubes here. Remember? Elbow maybe halfway here. Just tubes. Just worry about tubes. Don't worry about like the details of like, okay, well his chin's here, none of that stuff. Maybe Spider-Man's looking to the side here. And he's perched. Tubes and like just shapes, like here's an egg shape, here's like a block shape. I don't know the perspective on this. I'm not really worried about that in this stage. What I'm just trying to do here is just have fun with tubes. Because with tubes you can start to get like really interesting shapes. You get some really interesting designs and stuff out of them. Right? Like maybe we could bring up a knee right here. Look at that. We got a foot here, and he's doing some parkour stuff, We got another knee up over here. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's like leapfrogging over something. You know what I'm saying? So just do this sort of thing like that. Unfortunately, I can't do any more critiques, you guys. I don't mean to bitch out on you guys like that or anything. I didn't tell you guys, but what I've started to do is, remember I told you guys I wake up early in the morning. Well, I used to get up at 4 in the morning, which sounds absolutely crazy. And I would get up and I'd just be like, ugh, I don't know, it's gross. Then I tried, maybe I'm just getting up too early. So I tried 5, and 5 felt like, it's a little better, but like I've only got an hour, 2 hours to be able to work before work, like draw comics and stuff, right? And the other day I was doing nothing, and it bothered me. I think I was watching a movie or something, and the movie wasn't very good. And I just started thinking, like, I'm wasting time here. I'm not enjoying this. I'm not getting anything out of this. And there is like something to be said for just some R&R, just shut your mind off and just do nothing. I get you. But I feel like when you start realizing that you're wasting time and doing nothing, it's pretty silly, right? So I think it was like 7 o'clock at night or something. And I'm like, I'm just going to bed. What's like 7 hours from now? Or I just started working at 7 or 8, and it was 3 a.m. And I'm like, you know what? 4 and 5 has been feeling like crap. 3 a.m. I'm destroyed. This is silly. Long story short, this whole week I've been getting up at 3 a.m., going to bed at like 8 p.m. And I wake up, I actually feel good. I don't feel drained. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But it gives me like a solid 4 hours to work on comics before going to work. And my production has just skyrocketed. So, that was a long-winded way of saying, unfortunately, I can't do any more critiques, and I got to cut this short so that I can go to bed. But I wanted to say thank you so much to you guys for coming out. Honestly, I appreciate it. It was great to see some new faces in here. Thank you so much to everybody that was brave enough to throw your art out there. And hopefully, you guys got something out of what I was telling you. If I was just speaking a lot of jibber jabber and it was just dumb, you don't like the way I was drawn, okay. But if you did get something out of it, I'm humbled and thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And just to do some more plugging, if you guys wanted to head on over to patreon.com, any financial support over there is highly appreciated. But if you don't have any money to throw at me, that's absolutely okay. Keep liking and sharing and subscribing on YouTube. If you guys are on Facebook or if you guys are on Twitter, head on over to jonathanrector.com. You guys can find me on there too, and you guys can see all the posts that I'm doing each week. And on Saturday or Sundays on my website, I post all the art that I dump on Facebook and Twitter. So if you guys don't follow any of those things or you don't want to miss an update, head on over to my website and you guys can check it out there. And that's about it. I'm going to cut it off here. I'm pretty sure we can just keep rambling about stuff you can do. But I thank you guys again one more time. enough touching butts here. I'll let you guys go. So every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you guys can come watch the show. And until next Wednesday, you guys, keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll see you then. Bye.